Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. I am your host, Brenda, and I have a lot of news for you today. We'll just get right on into it. Man, there's a bunch of it. The first one here is off of the NewYorkPost.com. For Donald Trump summit. And, and this is one for the record books. It says here that Donald Trump's media summit was an effing firing squad. Donald Trump scolded media big shots during an off-the-record Trump Tower sit-down on Monday, sources told the Post. It was like an effing firing squad, one source said of the encounter. I would have been a fly on the wall for that one. Man, since Trump started with CNN chief Jeff Zucker and said, "I hate your network. Everyone at CNN is a liar and you should be ashamed." The media was a total disaster. The TV execs and anchors went in there thinking they would be discussing the access they would get the Trump administration, but instead they got a Trump-style dressing down, the source added. Second source confirmed the fireworks. The meeting took place in a big boardroom, and there were about 30 or 40 people, including the big news anchors from all the networks, the other source said. Trump kept saying, "We're in a room full of liars, the deceitful, dishonest media who got it all wrong." In the room calling the media dishonest, deceitful liars, he called out Jeff Zucker by name and said everyone at CNN was a liar and CNN was a network of liars, the source said. Trump didn't say NBC reporter Katie Tur by name, but talked about an NBC female correspondent who got it wrong. Then he referred to a horrible network correspondent who cried when Hillary lost a hosted debate, Radzik, who was also in the room. Let's see if I can get this to scroll down. There we go. This is the stunned reporters. I can't make this stuff up. Lord have mercy. Now I tried to scroll too far. Let me get this straightened up here. Gonna take a second, I think. Poor little hamster, he's trying to catch up to me. I think he's laughing too. Too much or not enough? Come on, hamster, work with me. Okay, here we go. Well, I think now it's going to jump around. Straighten itself up here. I think it's trying to load some pictures or something in here, and that's making the matter worse. Oh, I tell you what, I laughed so hard when I read this the first time. It says this, well, that's jumping again. Can settle down anytime now. The stunned reporters tried to get a word in edgewise to discuss access to the Trump administration. And then it wants me to jump here to the next page. So let's jump. Since this is a funny one, we'll just we'll ride with this one. Lord have mercy. He let him have it. If ever a bunch deserved it. I tell you what. Well, come on, hamster. All right, here we go. It says CBS Good Morning co-host Gayle King did not stand up, but asked some questions. It says, how do you propose we, the media, work with you? Chuck Todd asked some pretty pointed questions. David Murr asked, how are you going to cope living in D.C. while your family is in New York City? It was a horrible meeting. Trump spokeswoman Kellyanne Conway told reporters the gathering went well. Excellent meeting with top executives of the major networks, she said during a gaggle in the lobby of Trump Tower. Pretty unprecedented meeting we put together in 2 days. The meeting was off the record, meaning the participants agreed not to talk about the substance of the conversations. I bet they did. The hour-long sessions included top execs from networks and cable news channels. Among the attendees were NBC's Deborah Turnus, Lester Holt, and Chuck Todd, ABC's James Goldston, George Stephanopoulos, David Murr, and Martha Raddatz. Also CBS, Nora O'Donnell, John Dickerson, Charlie Rose, Christopher Isham, and King. Fox News, Bill Shine, Jack Abernathy, Jay Wallace, Suzanne Scott, MSNBC's Phil Griffin, and CNN's Jeff Zucker, and Aaron Burnett. Arthur Schulzberg, publisher of the New York Times, plans to meet with Trump on Tuesday. There was no immediate comment from the Trump team. And there's some video in this if you want to pull this up and take a look on it. Video's on page 2. Oh, mercy. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall. Okay, the next one is off of Liberty Writers News. It says, urgent. Mainstream media caught in a huge lie about Trump's election. Example of why only 6% of Americans trust the liberal media. Democrats went crazy when Trump won the election last week. They took to the streets and rioted like animals, because nothing says listen to my rational point of view like flipping cop cars, breaking windows, looting property, and chanting kill the police. Their main point of contention is that Trump shouldn't be president because he lost the popular vote. According to the liberal media, Hillary won the popular vote 61,350,000. Try that again. 61,350,758 votes to Trump's 60,580. Oh, Lord have mercy. 60,583,838 was Trump's votes. Difference of more than 766,000 votes. But the media is hiding a dirty little secret. VoteFraud.org analysis of a database of 180 million voter registrations. The organization found that 3 million votes in the U.S. presidential election were cast by illegal aliens, which makes those votes invalid. This means that Donald Trump won the popular vote. The media has access to these numbers, but they refuse to report them to the public. Illegals could have voted Republican, but that would be incorrect. An investigation completed by a documentarian, Joanne Livingston, found that Democrats actually gave illegal immigrants voter registration and transported them to states without voter identification laws. Upon receiving the instruction, Livingston explained they were informed that unless they show up and vote the Democratic ticket, they would be arrested and deported. The dishonest attempt by Democrats and the media to manipulate our election is astounding. No wonder they are throwing the temper tantrums in the street. They cheated and they still couldn't win. The article I have for you is off of naturalnews.com, and it says, fake news. All the networks that reported you can keep your doctor or blamed the DNC email hack on Russians were knowingly spewing fake news. With everybody suddenly talking about fake news versus real news, it's notable to point out that fake news is every network that reported the Russians hacked the DNC emails. That wild Looney Tunes conspiracy theory was backed by absolutely nothing. Not a single shred of evidence. Yet was bandied about by the mainstream media as if it were irrefutable fact. Hillary Clinton even claimed during a presidential debate that Donald Trump was working with Putin. The problem, you see, is that the New York Times has openly admitted it's willing to lie to make sure conservative candidates are defeated in elections. So the Times fabricates false facts, then publishes them as if they were true. From there, the rest of the obedient left-wing media repeats the lies, citing the New York Times as their source. And that's how total fabrications become facts in the minds of the delusional left. Once the lie is in the New York Times, all the obedient fact-checker websites declare the lie to be true as well. And from there, it finds its way TV, comedy shows, local newspapers, and social media. As is this echo chamber of opinionated lies that the left absurdly sees as objective truth. And because the psychological impact of all these lies is so deeply embedded in the minds of the masses, achieving a kind of hypnosis hallucination, these very same people see factual, objective reporting as fake news because it contradicts the lies they hold in their heads. Actual truth is rejected by the hypnotized minds that have been manipulated by the lying mainstream media. So any website that reports obvious factual truths, such as the fact that Obama's birth certificate document really was faked using multiple layers of Photoshop that the fakers forgot to collapse into a single final layer, that true fact appears to the hypnotized masses as fake. Delusional people will readily believe almost any conspiracy theory about the Russians as long as it originates with the left-wing media. So the New York Times, Washington Post, USA Today, NPR, and CNN can all fabricate almost anything they want, even if it's completely Looney Tunes. And their readers will dutifully believe it because that's the way they've been programmed. Remember, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Every media organization that reported that lie is also in the business of fake news. Obamacare was a deception from the very start. Even its own architect, Jonathan Gruber, has openly admitted that the whole thing was sold to the stupid voters by deceiving them from day one. And yet every single mainstream media website gleefully reported all the lies about Obamacare, including absurd claims that the government-run media system would reduce average health insurance costs by $2,500 while providing improved care, increased doctor choices, and greater job security. In reality, as I had warned year after year, Obamacare has caused massive job losses, huge increase in health insurance costs for tens of millions of Americans, and it has forced people into limited choices for doctors and medical procedures. Yet when I was warning Americans about all those things years ago, I would be accused of being a liar who contradicted the truth of the New York Times, which is a dishonest pro-Obama propaganda machine. The left-wing media lies by default because every news story is actually just propaganda pretending to be news. Of all is that the mainstream media doesn't even try to tell the truth. By default, every story they run is propaganda piece, and they hold back all the stories they don't want you to see. The left-wing media is, by any reasonable definition, a massive fake news propaganda machine pretending to be engaged in journalism. Almost everything they report is false or distorted, from their pro-vaccine, pro-GMO, pro-pharma propaganda parade to their hit pieces on truth tellers like Donald Trump. The very people running the mainstream media at the highest levels are litigious anti-American traitors who, as I've said many times, need to be arrested, indicted, and prosecuted for sedition. The left-wing media is not just fake, it's maliciously dangerous to this nation. By pursuing a coordinated campaign of lies, collusion, and misinformation, they managed to hypnotize nearly half the country into voting for Hillary Clinton, a murderous war criminal and sellout who would have likely thrust America into a nuclear war with Russia, even according to Russia's own political leaders. Why the fake news mainstream media is such a danger to America. The danger of the left-wing fake news system is that fake news becomes a system of fake beliefs in the minds of the populace, and those fake beliefs turn into real action, such as Black Lives Matter protests, racial animosity, death threats against Donald Trump, and the beatings of innocent white people simply because their skin is white. It is the fake news mainstream media system in America today that has given rise to division, disunity, violence, and distrust. The fake news institutions of America, in other words, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, etc., are tearing America apart at the seams. Would you be surprised if I told you that, try that again, would you be surprised if I told you that their mission from the very start, it's all by design, my friends, because the real war being waged right now is the war against your mind. Documentary To understand more, and they've got that link in this URL if you want to take a look at it. All the URLs are listed in my videos, so you can peruse these at your leisure. The war on reality shown below, and if you are really ready to be awakened with real news, read naturalnews.com. And we are the new media that tries to tell the truth in every story. While we aren't perfect in our accuracy, we never deliberately lie to our readers like the mainstream media does every day on purpose. That article. The next one we have is off of CNN.com. And this one is about the school bus crash that I did the breaking news on noon. And this is the update on it. Bus driver arrested in fatal crash that killed 6 children in Tennessee. School bus driver has been arrested and charged with multiple counts of vehicular homicide, reckless endangerment, and reckless driving, according to Chattanooga Police Chief Fred Fletcher. The school bus slammed into a tree and split apart Monday, killing at least 6 children, Tennessee officials said. Walker is charged with 5 counts but could face more charges as the case proceeds to a Hamilton County grand jury. The count of the does not include children who may have died at the hospital. From the Hamilton County District Attorney's Office said at least 5 children died on the scene and 1 died at the hospital. Fletcher said the bus, which was carrying 35 students in kindergarten through the 5th grade from Woodmore Elementary School, died and struck a tree. Authorities received a call about the crash just before 3:30 p.m., and emergency officials worked for many hours to remove all of the children from the bus, he said. 3 victims were transported to Erlanger Hospital in Chattanooga. Speed is a possible factor. Certainly, speed is being investigated very, very strongly as a factor in this crash, Fletcher said, adding that the investigation was still at an early stage. He added that driving conditions were clear and dry. Fletcher said a warrant has been issued to remove the informational box on the school bus. Police said the bus driver is cooperative and talking to investigators. Fletcher said that all the families of the victims had been notified. Taking care of the children that are injured is our #1 priority. Taking care of the families who are looking for, caring for, and grieving for children is our second priority, Fletcher said. He added, our thoughts, our prayers, and all of our efforts are with the families of these children and others impacted by this tragedy. The Transportation Safety Board said it would send a team to Chattanooga early Tuesday, according to a tweet from the federal agency's account. Scene, parents were heard crying and screaming, "That's my baby," CNN affiliate WTVC reported. A woman who lives near the crash told CNN affiliate WDEF the impact was so powerful it knocked her power out. Boom, the woman said. Fletcher, in a press conference, called the crash scene a complicated crime scene that covered a large area. What has happened today is every public safety official's absolute worst nightmare, but that is nothing in comparison to the nightmare that the family and friends in our community are going to go through. Loss to children in our community, Fletcher said. Tennessee Senator Bob Corker called the crash heartbreaking in a tweet. A tweet from the Chattanooga Fire Department showed the bus on its side and up against a tree as emergency officials extricated the last patient. Blood Assurance, a blood bank in the Chattanooga area, extended its hours at 3 locations as hundreds and hundreds of donors flocked to give blood to treat crash victims, said Mindy Quinn of Blood Assurance. We've had people who were refusing to leave until they gave blood, Quinn said. Quinn said they brought 2 bloodmobiles to 1 blood bank because of the huge response. She said that they were fast-tracking O-negative donors and trying to schedule donors for the days ahead and into the next week. The blood isn't going to be needed for just tonight, she said. And county Department of Education Superintendent Kirk Kelly called the crash one of the worst days the school community has experienced. This has been a great tragedy for us. We have suffered a great loss today, Kelly said in a news conference. He said district schools will be open Tuesday and officials will offer support for students and staff, including guidance counselors, for as long as they are needed. We will do everything that we can to try to help the families involved in this tragedy, Kelly said. So I'm sure that everyone listening to this broadcast will be sending their heartfelt condolences and prayers to the families in Chattanooga that are going through this. Here we are on Thanksgiving week, and those families that have experienced this loss are going to be grieving and having a hard time finding things to be thankful for. So it's something that we all need to think about and send our prayers to heal their hearts. The next article that I have for you is off of PamelaGeller.com. This one says, U.S. District Judge, everyone talks about Brussels or Paris having sales here in Minneapolis. Everyone talks about Brussels or Paris having sales. We have a sale here in Minneapolis, Davis said to 10 jihad supporters had attended previous hearings and noted that some defendants gave them signals. Two defendants, Mohammed Farah and Abdirahman Dodd, flashed index fingers pointed as they faced the gallery on their way out, an apparent symbol of Tawad that symbolizes an Islamic concept of oneness of God, but is also a popular symbol used by ISIL supporters. What was happening was clear to anyone who is informed, but so few people are. Kudos to Judge Davis for telling it like it is. Terrorist cell is alive in Minneapolis, U.S. Judge in ISIL case says, by Stephen Montemayor, Star Tribune, November 19th, 2016. Says in sentencing 9 young Somali Minnesotans on terror conspiracy charges this week, U.S. District Judge Michael Davis closed a chapter in the federal government's long, extraordinary investigation of ISIL recruitment in Minnesota. But the full story is far from over. In 9 hearings over 3 days before a courtroom packed with families of young men who sought to give their lives to ISIL, Davis reportedly message. There's the terrorist cell in Minneapolis, and it's still alive today. Each day, Davis sought to extract knowledge from the young men that they were terrorists and left no doubt as to his thoughts on whether they were simply misguided use. Everyone talks about Brussels or Paris having sales, Davis said one day, then raising his voice, we have a sale here in Minneapolis. Saying the Minnesota public had danced around the issue, Davis described the sales size as being between 9 to 20, including those sentenced last week and others killed abroad. Later in the week, he raised eyebrows in the courtroom by telling one defendant that he noted 6 to 10 supporters who attended previous hearings and insisted that some defendants gave them signals. I know they're out there, Davis said. The community knows they're out there. Federal prosecutors seemed to share Davis's conviction. In an unusual development on Wednesday, they asked that 2 defendants, Mohammed Farah and I can't pronounce this feller's name. This is time to take a drink for all you people that use this for a drinking game. Abdirahman Dodd, he returned to the courtroom after their hearings were finished. Prosecutors said that both men flashed index fingers pointed upward as they faced the galley on their way out, an apparent symbol of Tawhid that symbolizes an Islamic concept of oneness of God, but also is a popular symbol used by ISIL supporters. Next article I have for you, rather disturbing. This comes out of Nigeria, and this will break your heart. 7-year-old boy beaten mercilessly and burnt alive. The reason will shock you. Just wondering why human beings could be so wicked and heartless. This was the cry of a woman after a 7-year-old boy was beaten mercilessly and burnt alive. Who in their right senses will beat up a kid with enough bruises and blood all over their body from head to toe and puts a tire on him and sets him on fire for stealing food. Who? This is an RM1 question filling the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, after a boy was set alight for stealing food and an angry mob by an angry mob and a shop owner. An eyewitness, a little too much on me. Here we go. An eyewitness said the boy was hungry and begging for food, but no one seemed to be interested in helping him, as Nigeria is currently hit by a severe economic recession. The boy now ran into a shop and took one cold drink of Fanta and a loaf of bread. And after the hungry, starving kid shouting in their language, thief, thief, and the angry mob descended on the kid. The shop owner threw the first set of beatings. The shop owner did not tell the mob what the kid took. He lied and exaggerated it. As the mob dealt with him, he apologized, cried for mercy and help. Not eaten in 3 days as his mother was not around. Nobody could stop them. Somebody watched and took pictures to post on the internet. Did he steal someone's destiny? Did he steal a fetus from someone's womb? Picture that was posted on Facebook of this whole incident, if you want to pull this article up and take a look at it. Sad, sad stuff here. It says, the one stealing billions, how many of them have been burned alive? The user asked. She went on, how the hell did I become a Nigerian? How did we get here? Damn it, religion, my ass. So the people that carried out this horror also belong to a religion? Oh, Lagos State. Oh, Nigeria. I'm so effing pained. Even animals protect their own. The mob disappeared after setting the boy alight had been made. Not even a single security agent has arrived on the scene as the time of the filing of this report. What is Africa coming into? Another eyewitness cried out. Just last week, a 15-year-old boy was publicly beheaded for listening to hip-hop music. His father watched helplessly. Many people are asking, what in the world, or what is the world turning into, and what in the world leaders are doing about all these incidents? And they have a link to this one about the 15-year-old boy, and there's a picture of the executioner standing over him about to behead him. It's sad, 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 sad. But there's no reason to beat somebody, set them on fire, or chop off their head. Handle things. My goodness gracious. The next one is off of WND.com. State officials mistreat girl of age 5 raped by Muslim migrants. I brought this story to your attention back, I believe it was toward the end of June. And here's an update on it. It says, last summer, a 5-year-old girl was vaginally raped and urinated upon by 3 Muslim migrant boys in Twin Falls, Idaho. Since then, instead of getting justice, the victim's family has been abused by law enforcement and governing authorities as if they were the criminals because of what happened to their little girl. Correct narrative about Muslim migrants. And it just keeps getting worse. The victim's mother has now informed me that despite huge medical expenses for their daughter that this attack has necessitated, the state of Idaho has told her the maximum assistance that the family can get is $4,500. Were raped in the state of Idaho, if you're 5 years old and your attackers are from a politically protected class, you're only worth $4,500. There seems to be no willingness on the part of the state or the county to reimburse this long-suffering family for any other costs that they have incurred because of the crime. Because they felt threatened with very good reason in continuing to live next door to one of the attackers' families, they have been living in succession of hotels. They've spent in excess of $2,000 in hotels alone. Relocate because Muslims were stopping in front of their home at night and shooting bottle rockets off at 11:30 p.m. Apparently, that kind of menacing and harassment doesn't qualify as demonstrating a need for relocation. The family also incurred babysitting fees as well as expenses for transportation to get themselves to and from court. Then there's the astronomical cost of their lawyer and other costs that will require to accomplish anything positive for them. The poor family has suffered almost every kind of injustice, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. It is outrageous, and it gets even worse. For the longest time, the attacker wasn't even limited in his access to the community's children. Now he must be supervised by someone 14 years old or older. When they stipulated this, the court had to have been aware that one of the boys videotaped in the rape was also 14. This is a gross insult against the victimized family and a direct result of the judge's decision. Meanwhile, a neighbor of the family who caught the perpetrators in the act, an elderly woman known as Grandma Joe, has been living in constant terror since she first happened upon the grisly scene. She's been stalked by the Iraqi family of the 7-year-old attacker. Her apartment is back to back with theirs. They peer into her windows and pace back and forth in front of her apartment in a clearly menacing manner. The prosecuting attorney, Grant Loebs, has gone out of his way to imply that this rape was false information. His interviews have led the media and public officials to deny clear facts of the case. The U.S. Attorney for Idaho even vowed to charge anyone who made false statements about the perps. The Hamas-tied Council on American Islamic Relations has whined that the case has become a lightning rod for anti-Muslim, anti-refugee sentiments. Meanwhile, the victim in Twin Falls, once a happy social child, now frequently insists that she wants to be alone. She finds a small and safe space inside a closet and stays in it alone for hours. Once a very chatty and happy child, she's become very quiet. Even during the summer heat of Twin Falls, she always wore 2 t-shirts and 2 pairs of underwear. She talked constantly about those naughty boys and asked her mother repeatedly not to tell her father everything that happened because it'll upset him. The alleged attackers' families had no trouble getting new homes, but the victim's family is still without a new apartment now that the media firestorm has subsided, the family simply being ignored. This little girl deserves justice, and she's not getting it. We're not going to forget about this case. The authorities who have failed this family and betrayed it for political correctness need to be repudiated, rejected, rebuked, and removed from office. Enough is enough. Off of USDefenseWatch.com, and it says, North Korea broadcasts coded message to sleeper agents on radio, sparking fears of an attack. North Korea has broadcast a coded message to sleeper agents on state radio, sparking fears of an imminent attack. The announcements were made as part of a cryptic broadcast, and analysts believe it is a book cipher for agents in foreign countries. The radio announcer said, I'm giving chemistry review work to number 21 expedition agents before continuing with the numbers, which spies can decode using a reference book. Similar broadcasts were reportedly made on November 6th and 11th. The latest is the 14th since June. A source in the South Korean ministry told the Daily Star that their neighbors could launch an attack at any time. They have also detected many missiles moving around the country. Next article I have is off of Western Journalism, and it says Los Angeles Islamic leader calls for revolt after Trump wins the election. The leader, oops, now it's jumping, okay. The leader of the Los Angeles office of the Council on American Islamic Relations has called for the overthrow of the government in the wake of Donald Trump's election as president. Hussam Aliwish last week called for an Arab Spring-like revolt with one line of his tweet then translated reading, the people want to bring down the regime, according to Daniel Pipes of the Middle East Forum. CAIR, or CARE, is also attacking Trump over his selection of Breitbart chairman Stephen Bannon to serve as his chief strategist. The appointment of Stephen Bannon as top Trump administration strategist sends the disturbing message that the anti-Muslim conspiracy theories and White House nationalist ideology will be welcome, said CAIR National Executive Director Nahad Awad. We urge President-elect Trump to reconsider this ill-advised appointment if he truly seeks to unite Americans, Awad said. CAIR has also objected to Frank Gaffney, founder and president of Center for Security Policy, on the Trump transition team. CAIR posted its list of alleged anti-Muslim comments and actions by potential members of Trump's cabinet. And there's a lot of tweets in this if you want to pull them up and take a look at this stuff for yourself. I'm trying to get it to scroll. There we go. A little too much. Okay, it says, as Muslims harden their opposition to America's next president, Trump is considering reviving a bill that would ban the Muslim Brotherhood by declaring it a terrorist organization. Trump advisor Walid Phares said the proposal introduced last year by Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, faced tough going because of the Obama administration's support for the group. Trump, he said, will support the proposal. So there you have that. The next one that we have is off of LibertyRidersNews.com. It says, Trump can't stop smiling after meeting with one of America's greatest allies. President-elect Donald J. Trump is planning to meet with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. This is huge. He isn't even president, and he's making strong relationships with other world leaders. Japan has been a great ally forever, and it's good to see that Trump is continuing our relationship with him. If you'd like to take a look at the video on your own leisure. It says, what do they plan to do? Mr. Abe has made it very clear that he plans on focusing the attention of the meeting on Japan-U.S. alliance. What did the Prime Minister have to say about Trump? Well, quote, I'm very honored to see the president-elect ahead of other world leaders, Mr. Abe told journalists before leaving. The Japan-U.S. alliance is the axis of Japan's diplomacy and security. The alliance becomes alive only when there is trust between us. I would like to build such a trust with Mr. Trump, unquote. The event was set to take place at Trump Towers, where Trump has been tirelessly working on his future cabinet. Prime Minister Abe will definitely talk about the importance of Japan-U.S. alliance, and that alliance is not only for Japan and the United States, but for the entire Indo-Pacific region as well as world politics, said, here's another one, Katsuyuki Kawai. I'm not sure I got it right. Better take a drink. He then followed up by saying that we don't have to take each word that Mr. Trump said publicly literally. It is really a great thing seeing our president-elect taking big leaps toward diplomatic solutions. The mainstream media does not fairly cover the good that is coming from Trump's soon-to-be presidency. This is an outrage. So there you have that. There's more pages to that if you want to pull that up and read more of that on your own. But that gets you the basic gist of it. The next one is off of conservativetribune.com. This says, Trump names General Flynn his national security advisor. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, the hard-charging former military man who made headlines when he gave an impassioned speech for President-elect Donald Trump at the Republican National Convention this summer, will be Trump's national security advisor, The Hill reports. Flynn, a top surrogate of Trump's, has also been the president-elect's military advisor throughout the presidential campaign. While his name had always been among the foremost in consideration for the position, Wednesday's announcement seemed to settle the matter in Flynn's favor. Another positive sign for Flynn's chance was an appearance by Trump aide Jason Miller on Fox News Wednesday night, in which he said that the former Army Lieutenant General would be a fantastic addition to the Trump's administration. No formal announcement yet for that position, Miller said when he asked about the position of National Security Advisor. General Flynn met with the president-elect today. He has been a companion on the campaign trail quite a bit, as we've seen over the past few months. He'd be a fantastic addition. I'll let the president-elect make that decision. I'm a huge fan of General Flynn, Miller said. Flynn's tough position on terrorism, and in particular, President Obama's decision to refrain from describing it as radically Islamic in nature, made him one of the top critics of American Islamic State group. Frankly, I'm sick of having just the Europeans and our own leaders condemn it, even through our own president, trying to convince our president to actually define this enemy, Flynn told Fox News back in July. We know what it is. It's radical Islamic terrorism. However, this breakthrough moment was a fiery speech delivered in support of Donald Trump at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. We are tired of Obama's empty speeches and his misguided rhetoric, Flynn told the audience. According to the Los Angeles Times, this has caused the world to have no respect for America's word, nor does it fear our might. Taking a swipe at liberal social taking a swipe at liberal social issues, Flynn exclaimed that war is not about bathrooms. War is not about political correctness or words that are meaningless. War is about winning. My message here, wake up, America. There is no substitute for American leadership and exceptionalism. With words like that, you can bet he has liberals quaking in rage. Of course, he'll also have the Islamic State group quaking in fear. I believe that's what Stephen Covey described as win-win situation. You have that. The next one that we have is off of LibertyWritersNews.com, and it says, President Trump just made Apple do something amazing for U.S. jobs. Donald Trump has not even been elected president for a month, and already our economy is booming. Now America is reclaiming an industry for blue-collar workers. In an absolutely unprecedented move, it has been leaked that Apple ordered their phone manufacturers to investigate moving their factories to U.S. to avoid Trump's tariffs on foreign-made goods. Apple asked both Foxconn and Pegatron, the two iPhone assemblers, in June to look into making iPhones in the USA. A source told the Nikkei Asian Review. Foxconn complied while Pegatron declined to formulate such a plan due to cost concerns. Donald Trump's tax plan would impose a 35% tariff on any product made by a U.S. company in a foreign country. That's definitely going to make some heads spin. Hopefully, we will finally be able to bring some jobs back to the blue-collar cities like Chicago and Detroit. This is exactly what America needs to really recover, not more college. So thank you, Donald Trump, for sticking to your guns and restoring American industry to America. There's video in this. There's more pages if you want to page through it, read more. The next article I have is off of UFPnews.com. It says, breaking news, Donald Trump announces his pick for Attorney General, Trey Gowdy. For those of you who think Donald Trump will be just like every other typical worthless politician, you're in for a great big effing surprise. In a move that can only be described as brilliant common sense, Trump announced his pick for Attorney General, Trey Gowdy. I'm sure there will be a large percentage of Democrats out there who will soon be peeing their pants if that happens, if they aren't already. If this comes to pass, they'll have to build a bigger prison to put all the corrupt communists in. Donald Trump has wasted no time telling America who his choice for Attorney General is, and you will love it. After years and years of Eric Holder's criminal bullshit, we need an America-loving, no-nonsense person that will take care of business. On Twitter, Trump said his choice for Attorney General is none other than Trey Gowdy. How awesome would that be? South Carolina Representative and Chairman of the House Select Committee on Benghazi, Trey Gowdy, has earned the nickname the Bulldog and is feared by Obama and his gang of demented thugs. Let's hope nails of all the corrupt Democrat communist scumbags once and for all. If that weren't enough for conservatives, Trump also said that he would like to include Sarah Palin in his cabinet. I'd love that, Trump said during an interview on Mama Grizzly Radio. She's really somebody who knows what is happening, and she's a special person. She's really a special person, and I think people know that, and she's got a following that is unbelievable. Trump also had this to say about how he's running his campaign. It says, by self-funding my campaign, I'm not controlled by my donors, special interests, or lobbyists. I'm working for the people of the U.S. Oh my God, it's almost too good to be true. Presidential candidate that actually believes he's working for the U.S., the American people. Somebody pinch me because I must be dreaming. The next article I have for you is off of regated.com. This one says, well, this one has an ad that I got to get rid of. Madam Secretary Gabbard, representative of Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District, rumored candidate for Secretary of State. Representative Tulsi Gabbard emerged as potential Secretary of State in Donald Trump's cabinet. This is a game changer. I'm one of the many Trump voters who embraced him as ultimate protest vote. He won. I'm still smiling at the media's collective shock post-election. They have doubled down on the identity rhetoric that fueled Trump's success. My expectations for a Trump presidency were non-existent. They were more so a moot point. His victory was the victory. Nothing else mattered or existed. For decades, the elites of both parties made it clear that the effects of their decisions did not matter to them. I chose to give them a taste of their own medicine. This is the fact, or main fact, that the media continues to ignore. Or perhaps they cannot understand because they're hyper-insulted, privileged perspectives. It is telling that many readers will instantly think they aren't ignoring it. They really are that insulated. Gabbard's potential nomination has ignited a new excitement for me about Trump administration. The fact that he even interviewed Representative Gabbard tells me that President Trump's White House might actually transcend the gridlock created by the hyperpolarized ideological dichotomy that will be the ultimate legacy of the baby boomer elite. I highly doubt any mainstream media journos will ever see this piece, but just in case, WikiLeaks released a wealth of knowledge about the Clinton machine prior to the election. They were emails leaked from Clinton campaign chairman and longtime stalwart John Podesta. These emails gave the voting public an intimate, sometimes shocking, and more often banal look into the day-to-day mechanisms of the Clinton juggernaut. One of these emails from a duo of Clinton fundraisers describes the hammer dropped on Representative Gabbard after she resigned from her position at the DNC to fully support Bernie Sanders for president. As the saying goes, integrity is what we do when others can't see us. This email clearly indicates that would, or what would likely be, only the beginning of her punishment for refusing to bend the knee to Hillary in spite of their almost diametrically opposing political views. Hillary Clinton's campaign, by surrogates like Madeleine Albright, described a certain hell for women who didn't support her. Representative Gabbard is a progressive Democrat who believed in and supported Bernie Sanders fully. It is difficult to imagine the strength it took for a Democrat to stand tall against the Clinton behemoth. She risked her entire career to say nothing of the day-to-day slights she likely endured. That strength of conviction in the face of adversity is part of what best defines the American people. Representative Gabbard knew in all likelihood that Clinton would win the election according to all the best pollsters. In spite of that, the rising star chose to risk falling rather than to betray herself. Representative Gabbard's actions speak for themselves. She would be an inspirational Secretary of State choice, and regardless of your thoughts on her politics, shouldn't we reward courage and individuality again in the United States? That's how we will begin to make America great again. Representative Gabbard is currently a major in the United States Army and served with distinction in Iraq. She has served since 2004. Loyalty, integrity, and on-the-ground experience in Middle Eastern wars already make Gabbard my favorite choice for a position that would heavily influence, in part, those very wars. Political ideology will always take a back seat to experience for many in the emerging new GOP. Paul Ryan has political views more in line with my own, but he is a sniveling coward who refused to back Trump in any real way and now seeks to ingratiate himself with the president-elect. He has zero real-world experience in almost anything he discusses. Representative Gabbard's age is what erased any doubts I might have about or have had about her. She was born in 1981, a few months before me, and that's the writer of this article, not me personally. Our generation's faith in institutions was destroyed far too soon in our childhoods. Bill Clinton's scandal shifted the American discussions from what is right to what is legal. The Catholic Church systematic and widespread molestation scandal is dwarfed only by its cover-ups. The church and the government were forever sullied for an entire age of Americans. Those institutions went from social foundations to social embarrassments. We became cynical, anti-establishment, and often lacked any shared cultural tombstones. Representative Gabbard, as the global representative of the American people, would be the perfect symbol of a new beginning and new era of American governance and politics. Secretary Gabbard would help usher in an era distinguished by experts making decisions rather than donors and younger Americans shrugging off the yoke of political ideological constraints. We now seek integrity in the people who make up the government. We demand it. We will no longer accept that's just the way it is. That's just a great idea, but it won't happen. That's what really terrifies the elites. It won't happen. Happened. Let's keep making it happen. Next article I have for you is off of BizPackReview.com. It says, University vows to defy Trump, resist immigration enforcement. The chancellors of California State University, CSU, said Wednesday the school will do whatever it can within the law to prevent illegal immigrant students from being deported. During his presidential campaign, Trump vowed to deport large numbers of illegal immigrants and said he would crack down on sanctuary signs. He plans to back down on immigration, and now CSU Chancellor Timothy White says his school is prepared to stand up to the new president. Our police department will not honor ICE immigration hold request, White told the CSU Board of Trustees meeting Wednesday. Our university police do not contact, detain, question, or arrest individuals solely on the basis of being a person that lacks documentation. White's announcement comes 1 week after a public statement he made on the 2016 election that indirectly but clearly regarded Trump's victory negatively. Today, many in our community may feel anxious and perhaps vulnerable about their personal future, the future of those they care for, and the future of our nation. It is our duty as a community to listen to each other and support each other through this time, White said. With some 470,000 students scattered across 23 campuses, CSU is one of the largest university systems in the U.S. It isn't known for sure how many illegal immigrants attend the school, but last year about 10,000 students received a waiver that allows illegal immigrants to receive in-state tuition. On the other hand, CSU has suffered controversy in the past by allowing U.S. Customs and Border Patrol to do job recruiting on campus. Many activists had called for the Border Patrol to be banned from California campuses entirely to preserve them as a safe space for illegal immigrants. Despite the vow to resist Trump, CSU said in a follow-up statement the school is not a sanctuary campus, a designation many activists had called on schools to adopt. One of its primary objections is the term wasn't ideological, but rather pragmatic. The word sanctuary is a confusing term that lacks a universal legal or educational definition, and as such, if used, could lead to misunderstanding and misplaced reliance, the school said in its statement. If the university truly does defy Trump, the administration would have some options for fighting back. Most obviously, Trump could attempt to deny CSU access to federal student loan funds, a move that would utterly devastate the school's finances. Trump could also seek to have Congress pass new legislation compelling college and other local police forces to assist in the enforcement of immigration laws when requested. The next one we have is off of conservativetribune.com, and this one says, teen Trump supporter beaten by liberals during school walkout. Can't make this stuff up. A group of high school students in a walkout protest where students were carrying signs that said, "Love Trump's hate," beat up a 15-year-old for wearing a hat saying, "Make America Great Again." No, they did not just see the irony, but at least one of the culprits will have plenty of juvenile court dates to contemplate the paradox. According to WTOP TV, the incident happened Wednesday in Rockville, Maryland, where students at Richard Montgomery High School were staging a walkout against President-elect Donald Trump. Poor students, apparently unaware of what the signs say, "Love Trump's hate," actually means, began attacking the 15-year-old when they saw his attire. The group surrounded the teen, punching him repeatedly, then threw him to the ground and kicked him repeatedly in the ribs, WTOP reported. They jumped him and beat him up pretty bad, Max Stuckey, a bystander, said. For people who are upset, these kids certainly look happy, and there's a picture of them here, all smiling, carrying their sign saying "Stronger Together," and there's a video there if you want to take a look at it. It says Major Michael English of the Rockville Police Department indicated that the beaten teen hadn't been the aggressor. He was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. One alleged attacker, a 17-year-old, was identified and charged with second-degree assault. He's currently not in police custody. No word yet on the other three. While this is a very literal case of liberal bullying, it also points out that these walkouts are also a form of ideological bullying. It's unlikely a group of Trump supporters who walked out of the school if he lost would have been given administration approval or positive media coverage. Thus, what the media, school authorities, and liberal students are telegraphing is that certain people with certain ideas aren't welcome and will be punished. Bullying. Many of the students who were involved in the walkout were surprised that it ended so violently. They shouldn't have been. Four attackers were just doing what plenty of other anti-Trump activists across the nation have been doing since the advent of this campaign. Violence and bullying against Trump supporters have been a hallmark of the left, and it's certainly not going to stop now that he's president-elect. Some tolerance indeed. The next article that I have for you from journalism.com, and it says, in wake of election shellacking, Pelosi faces challenges to her leadership. Representative Tim Ryan, Democrat of Ohio, has publicly announced his intention to challenge House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democrat of California, for the top Democratic leadership post. Ryan had been mulling a challenge earlier in the week, which resulted in House Democrats canceling their planned House leadership vote on Tuesday and instead planned to vote on November the 29th. Pelosi, who rose to her leadership role in 2002, last faced a challenge to her status in 2010. However, results of the last week's election, in which President-elect Donald Trump defeated Democrat Hillary Clinton and Republicans managed to keep control of both houses of Congress, has changed the mood of many, and promising a much different post-election scenario. And at one point, promised Democrats would pick up at least 20 seats and that the GOP margin digits. Ryan, age 43, who was first elected in 2002, would not only be a new face, but also one from the Midwest, where Democrats were hammered last week. We just got a shellacking last Tuesday, said Representative G.K. Butterfield, Democrat of North Carolina, and chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus. We got an unexpected defeat, and we've got to recalibrate and decide how we're going to go forward. During a closed-door meeting, Representative Kathleen Rice, Democrat of New York, said, if we don't, as a party, have our leaders accept responsibility for where we are, we can't move forward and get to the point where our message is going to resonate with voters. Other Democrats said that the blame could could not be directed elsewhere. Anybody who's running for any position of leadership needs to come back and explain to us how we're going to be able to survive, one, the Trump years, but two, not have the same excuse we have every 2 years where there's some external factor that somehow causes us seats that we need, said Representative Ruben Gallego, Democrat of Arizona. Ron had indicated earlier in the week that his challenge to Pelosi was based on his fears that the House Democrats cannot fall further from power. You cannot fall off the floor, Ron said. We don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the presidency. I mean, we're in the worst shape we've been in since I first got here, Ron said. This is not fun anymore. To wallow in the minority, he said. So there you have that article. The next one we have is off of the express.co.uk. Threat reduced to the safest level following Donald Trump. And we've got to get this to scroll. There we go. Donald Trump's victory. America's DEFCON warning level has been reduced to the safest threat level possible following Donald Trump's shock presidential election win. Scroll, poor little hamster. He's just wore out. He says I'm being too rough on him. It looks like it's got some kind of video trying to play here too, so we got to calm itself. The DEFCON warning system, a private organization which monitors world events and estimates nuclear threat against America, is now at level 5, its lowest possible state. Just weeks ago, warning was accelerated to level 3 following increased tensions between U.S. and Russia, with insiders fearing the West was creeping closer to nuclear war. U.S. troops could be mobilized in as little as 15 minutes. But the group made up of experts claiming to have contacts within the U.S. security industry have seen Donald Trump's election win as a pacifier for Russian relations. The group wrote on its website, the United States took a tentative step, isolationist policy, with its recent presidential election. While it will take several months to see how the U.S. reforms its foreign policy, already some world leaders have expressed hope that the relations could improve, including Russia and Syria. If the new U.S. president keeps to his previous statements, look for the United States to withdraw somewhat from military confrontations in the Middle East and possibly, though it is highly unlikely, it will abandon NATO commitments, and the Ukraine will likely pop up again in the near future. Russia, however, will probably want to see what the new president does, as well as now being hampered winter. Donald Trump's election as president of America was welcomed by Vladimir Putin, leader of the U.S. rival Russia. He said he hoped the pair would be able to work well together towards a more friendly relationship between the two superstates. The group did warn, however, about some remaining threats to U.S. and world security. And North Korea continue to either cast a wary eye or are outright belligerent. Israel will become more of a focal point again. Meanwhile, more troops are being sent to Europe in 2017 to bolster defense against Russian movements, and NATO continues building up forces in Poland and surrounding areas to protect against a potential Russian assault. The government also uses DEFCON system as it is private and not available to the public, so public records are estimates. Level 5 means the U.S. Department of Defense should be at its lowest state of readiness for nuclear war. The article I have for you is off of Breitbart, and this one says, Merkel with Obama, internet disruptive force that has to be contained, managed, and steered by government. Lord. We can't get him out of here fast enough, can we? Speaking at a joint press conference with outgoing American President Barack Obama on his farewell tour, German Chancellor Angela Merkel made chilling remarks about her views on the need for government to control the internet and slammed anti-Islamization protesters who she accused of hijacking the German spirit for liberty. German Chancellor Merkel, who is presently deciding whether to run for historic fourth term on the stretch of her pro-migrant policies, which have seen her lauded with praise by President Obama, moved to address populism in her joint address, calling for the surge of interest in right-wing politics as a wave that engulfs us. Ms. Merkel noted the sentiment seems to come from the United States, but in an oblique reference to President-elect Donald Trump, said that it was an issue she was dealing with in Europe too. She said, "Look at the European Parliament. There's a lot of people who are looking for simplistic solutions and are preaching simplistic solutions, which are very unfriendly policies. We have them here in Europe too. We have them in Germany too." Apparently, blaming this rising populism politics that are popular with voters on the internet, the German chancellor implied the internet would have to be subject to restrictive censorship laws as were enacted by many European nations to stem the disruptive effect of printing press, she says. And here's a quote. Digitization is a disruptive technological force that brings about deep-seated change and transformation in society. Look at the history of the printing press. When this was invented, what kinds of consequences it had, or industrialization that consequences had. Very often it led to enormous transformation process with individual societies, and it took a while until societies learned to find the right kinds of policies to contain this, to manage and steer this. We live in a period of profound transformation, unquote. The chancellor also took time to speak out against the populists within her own country, blaming the exporting of manufacturing jobs abroad for discontent about mass migration, picking up the slogan for anti-mass migration and counter-Islamization movement called Pediga, and then it's translated here, "We are the people." The chancellor said, "The most important and noble task of politicians these days is to see that each and every person can find his place, but those who purportedly belong to certain groups say we are the people and not others," unquote. The saying has been inherited by Pediga from the counter-communist rule movements in East Germany in the 1980s. Merkel, a former member of the East German Communist Group, said those words as protest against overbearing government power had brought joy to her, but not today. Here's another quote. She says, "At the time when we had this saying, the GDR, East Germany, when people stood in the streets and said, 'We are the people,' it filled me with great joy. But the fact these people have hijacked it does not fill me with joy," unquote. Ms. Merkel comments on web censorship may be welcomed by many in the transitional mainstream media whose grip on news narratives has been weakened by digital news services like Breitbart. This week's Germany's Zeit newspaper published a piece calling for controls to prevent a German Donald Trump, while Britain's independent former newspaper website published a list of fake news sites which they claim may have swayed votes toward Donald Trump. One of those listed was Breitbart News. Next article that I have for you is off of BizPac Review, and this one says, "Here's a list of completely substantiated and underreported attacks on Trump supporters." In the wake of Donald Trump's victory in the presidential election, headlines have focused largely on unsubstantiated racist vandals rather than several incidents of actual assault. Many other allegations about acts of hate and violence from Trump supporters have now been found to be questionable, if not outright false. However, Trump supporters don't seem to enjoy the same level of concern from the media when they're attacked by others. Here's a list of substantiated violent attacks directed at Trump supporters since the election. Chicago, Illinois. A Chicago man named David Wilcox was brutally beaten by 3 men as onlookers screamed, "You voted Trump." "Damn, he voted Trump." "Don't vote Trump," they sneered as he was dragged out of his car, punched and kicked. The man then had his arm put through the back window with the window rolled up, trapping his arm inside the car. The car was driven through traffic, dragging the man's body with it. With the incident was brought up on CNN, Simone Sanders said in a mocking tone, "Oh my goodness, poor white people." But Wilcox did vote Trump. The attackers didn't even know that when they beat him, simply assuming that he did because he was, as they put it, a white boy. Rockville, Maryland. High school student from Rockville, Maryland was punched and kicked on the ground by his classmates for wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Students walked out of the class Wednesday morning to protest against Trump, and the presence of protest, along with his hat, apparently triggered the others to attack him. One of the attackers will be charged with second-degree assault. New York City. A 74-year-old man was assaulted and thrown to the ground by a 23-year-old female Black Lives Matter activist named Sachara McLaurin outside of Trump Tower during a protest. His attack occurred after he shouted, "All lives matter." The assailant, an anti-bullying activist, was arrested. Stafford, Virginia. A Virginia elementary school student was badly beaten by his classmates for voting Trump in a mock election. He was taken to the emergency room, and the other students who beat him have been suspended. Meriden, Connecticut. 2 men rained a series of punches and kicks down on a Connecticut man standing in traffic island with an American flag and a Trump sign. The police officer nearby broke up the attack, and both men were arrested and charged. Redwood City, California. A female California high school student was brutally beaten by classmates for supporting Donald Trump. Her attacker said, "FUUB." She punched her in the head and then pulled her hair while the student being attacked screamed. Palm Bay, Florida. High school student in Florida punched another student who was holding a Trump sign. The student was arrested and charged with felony battery. When he was taken to the dean's office, he reportedly started tearing the officer apart and said, "When I see that white boy again, I'm going to punch him in his face." Atlanta, Georgia. In a shocking attack, a Georgia man named Michael Mormon Jr. was murdered, apparently over an argument about Donald Trump possibly deporting an Hispanic man. And I'm sure that's probably just tip of the iceberg, but that's what they have here in this article. And the last one that I have for you, this is one that should make you feel a little bit better about all this news if you haven't drank enough over me mispronouncing people's names. This article does have a video in it. I'm not going to play the video. You're welcome to pull it up at your leisure and take a look at it. The title of the article is, it's off of upliftingforever.com. It says, Chick-fil-A employee signs with deaf customer in a viral video. And it says, for Cynthia Walker, it was a first. The 22-year-old had never been able to order food for herself without people just staring at her. Her mother explained in a Facebook post. Walker was born with Charge syndrome, which results in a number of conditions, including hearing and vision impairments and heart defect. Charge syndrome affects about 1 in every 10,000 individuals, according to the Charge Syndrome Foundation. Recently, Walker and her mother visited a local Chick-fil-A in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and were treated to a wonderful surprise. The employee who took their order, a young woman named Taylor, knew sign language and was able to communicate with Walker and take her order. Taylor did not miss a beat on greeting us with a warm smile and asking my daughter first what she would like. Mom mentioned. My daughter was so surprised and happy. Love What Mattered shared the story, and it quickly garnered plenty of attention. The post has been shared over 12,000 times and liked by over 60,000 users. You may watch the interaction between Taylor and Cynthia below, and there is the video that you can take a look at in the article. Um, and yeah, it did my heart good when I read that story. And it just goes to show you, if you've ever thought about learning a second language but think that it might be too tough, anybody can learn sign language. You don't have to know the verbs and the nouns and what goes here and there and worry about mispronouncing anything. It's all you have to do is use your hands. So it's something to think about. Learn sign language and be beneficial to people. So there's something for you to think about. Be thankful that you have hands and that you have a mind that you can use to learn a new language and help people out a little bit. There's all kinds of ways you can help people. A lot of things we have to be thankful for. And here it is, Thanksgiving week. With that, I'm going to close her down, and I hope that it's a beautiful day where you are. Go outside, ground yourself a little bit, get a breath of fresh air, soak up a little earth energy. Be glad you woke up above ground. A lot of people didn't. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.